Bam, focused minds back up in the building, keeping the Lord first and everything else that come together. Keith Thurman, one time Thurman, man, one of the greatest fighters in his day, welterweight, you know, had a unified belts at the time, you know what I mean? Great fighter, lost to Manny Pacquiao, and then kind of disappeared for a while, inactive. You know why he had the belt? You know, Spence wanted to fight him. He did not let Spence fight him. You know, and then when he lost the belts, you know, he wanted to fight Spence. So it didn't work out for him. You know, Spence didn't like the way he did it, and he didn't give him the opportunity either. The shoe was on the other foot. You know, once he was inactive, he wanted to fight Crawford too, but Crawford didn't even entertain it. But Keith, a great fighter, you know, he like to fight at a certain distance. He don't use his jab a lot, got great foot movement and head movement, and he one of the best trap setters in the game because that's how he get most of his knockouts, you know. He like to fight at a certain distance so he could set you up for them traps to get you caught up and hurt you to knock you out. And he was great at that. So you got to give Keith his respect in that regard. And Keith fought a lot of competition as well, so you can't take that from him either. You know, you got to respect the fighter willing to fight the fights that people want to see more than not. Keith in this fight here, unified fight, fighting Garcia at a distance, you know what I'm saying, using his feet movement, good defense from Keith, of course. He got great defense. You know, he shoot his jab only sometimes. He trying to set up them heavy punches that he like to throw and knock his opponents out. That's what he all about. You see him distancing and measuring up Garcia and waiting for Garcia to make a move on him. And that's how he fight his fights. You know, Keith was very effective at that. And you got to give him a lot of credit for knocking his opponents out like he did. Calling one time because he knocked him down, you know what I mean? But he don't use his jab a lot. As you notice, Keith is not jabbing. He jabbed one time there, poking it out there a little bit. You know, he just trying to really measure up Garcia for the knockout in this particular fight here. And this was a good fight, of course, but you know, Keith is really just measuring up. You see him coming in with the hook, one of his favorite punches, and really trying to catch Garcia on the chin real heavy. This fight against Porter, you know, Keith throwing his heavy combinations. He's not using his jab, but Porter wanted to fight Keith inside the pocket a lot in this fight, you know, making Keith uncomfortable where he don't want to be. He want to be setting the traps for the knockout, you know, from a certain distance. That's what he good at, you know what I mean? So when Keith throwing his punches, he want to be at a certain distance. Here you see Keith again trying to get to that distance he like. Porter want to smother him and try to get inside and make it real ugly for Keith. He don't want Keith at that distance, measuring him and setting up his punches the right way how he like to do. You know, and Porter all over him in this fight. You could tell Keith a little uncomfortable with the you know, the range that they wanted to that Porter wanted to fight, you know, in this particular fight. You know, Keith want to be right in here, you know, trying to bait his opponent in so he can go on ahead and clock him with a knockout shot. You know, he love to throw the hook, something that he good at, you know, and he got good foot movement and defense, but he just don't want to be all up in the pocket exchanging punches with none of his opponents, you know. And that's one thing Porter wanted to do in this particular fight. He wanted to make sure the fight was ugly, and getting inside in the pocket on Keith was his main thing. You see Keith throwing that hook trying to catch Porter coming in for the knockout punch, you know, one time for a reason. You feel me? So he really liked the fight again at a certain distance. And Porter was really making it ugly for Keith. But Keith, a great fighter. It's gonna be interesting to see what he do against Fundora, who again is long and lengthy, and it depends how Fundora fight Keith. If he uses jab, you know, it could be a long night for Keith because Keith is up in age now. You know, his glory days, I wouldn't say they done. I can't never say that about no man. Only Keith know that. But we'll see how he do in the fight.
I always say everything got a price. Because people say, like, I love my dog. I get $100. No, I get $1,000. No, I get $100,000. Hey, you can have it. Like, my thought is everything has a price. There is not a number that can get you back in that ring. 80 million, 100 million.
Nah, because now you selling your soul.
$100 million, you can have my soul.
That's you. Now we know your character.
That before, but you do yourself a good. You bring a good I don't want to say product. Product's not the right word, but you're doing a very honorable service.
I appreciate that.